Hello, my name is Nathan Dunnigan, and for this unit's mini lesson, I had 6.2, the blood system. Arteries. Arteries are blood vessels taking blood away from the heart that has not yet reached a capillary. Arteries convey blood at high pressure from the ventricles to the tissues of the body. Understanding number 1. Arteries have muscle cells and elastic fibers in their walls, which is our understanding number 2. Arteries have a relatively thick, smooth muscle layer that is used by the autonomic nervous system to change the inside diameter, or the lumen, of the blood vessels. Arteries have elastic fibers that help maintain the relatively high blood pressure achieved by the contractions of the ventricles. The muscle and elastic fibers assist in maintaining blood pressure between pump cycles, which is our understanding number 3. When blood is pumped into an artery, the elastic fibers are stretched and allow the blood vessel to accommodate the increased pressure. Capillaries. Blood flows through tissues and capillaries. Capillaries have permeable walls that allow exchange of materials between cells in the tissue and blood in the capillary, which is our understanding number 4. They are small blood vessels and are adapted for the exchange of substance to and from the blood. Capillaries enable tissues to gain nutrients and molecules such as oxygen and to rid themselves of waste material. They allow substances to enter and leave the organism, such as gas exchange and oxygen and carbon dioxide in the lungs. Over here in this diagram, these are the capillaries right here, while these are the arteries and these are the veins. Veins. Veins are blood vessels that collect blood from capillaries and return it to the heart. So, unlike arteries, which carry blood away from the heart to other body tissues, veins collect blood from the capillaries and return it to the heart. Veins collect blood at low pressure, unlike arteries who collect it at high pressure, from the tissues of the body and return it to the atria of the heart, which is our understanding number 5. Blood flows through veins is slower than arteries because of the low pressure. To account for the low pressure of blood flow, veins have thin walls and a larger internal diameter. Valves and veins in the heart ensure circulation of blood by preventing backflows. Veins have many internal passive one-way flow valves to help keep the slow-moving blood flowing towards the heart. Our skill number 1 is identification of blood vessels as arteries, capillaries, or veins from the structure of their walls. Over here in this picture, you will see 4 labeled structures asking what it is. A is a small artery, B is veins, C is RBC, and D is a capillary. Here is another image showing the artery with thick walls, the capillary, and the vein. William Harvey. William Harvey was an English physician who made a key contribution to our knowledge of anatomy and physiology. He was the first to describe completely the systematic circulation. Our first application is William Harvey's discovery of the circulation of blood with the heart acting as the pump. Lungs. There is a separate circulation for the lungs, which is our understanding number 7. The human heart is a 4-chambered organ consisting of 2 atria and 2 ventricles. The atria act as reservoirs by which blood returning to the heart is collected via veins and passed on to ventricles. The ventricles act as pumps, expelling the blood from the heart at high pressure via arteries. The reason why there are 2 sets of atria and ventricles is because there are 2 distinct locations for blood transport. The left side of the heart oxygenated blood around the body, and the right side of the heart pumps deoxygenated blood to the lungs. There is therefore a separate circulation for the lungs, right side of the heart, and the rest of the body, which is the left side of the heart. The left side of the heart will have a much thicker muscular wall as it must pump blood much further. Skill 2. Recognition of the chambers and valves of the heart and blood vessels connected to it, and dissected hearts or diagrams of heart structures. Here we have a heart structure, and you will want to know and study this So make sure you can label all of these things if you are given a blank heart structure. We have the right ventricle, the tricuspid valve, the pulmonary valve, the right atrium is right here, the vena cava from the body, the aorta to body, the pulmonary artery to the lungs is going out, the pulmonary veins from the lungs going in, the aortic valve, the left atrium is right here, the left ventricle is right here, and then the thick cardiac muscle is this outside. Control of the heartbeat. The contraction of heart is myogenic, meaning the signal for cardiac compression arises within the heart tissue itself. In other words, the signal for a heartbeat is initiated by the heart muscle cells rather than from brain signals, which is our understanding number 8. Within the wall of the right atrium are a specialized cluster of cardiomyocytes which direct the contraction of heart muscle tissue. This cluster of cells are collectively called the sinoatrial node, SA node, or SAN. The SA node acts as the primary pacemaker, controlling the rate at which the heart beats. The SA node triggers roughly 60 to 100 cardiac contractions per minute. If the SA node fails, a secondary pacemaker, the AV node, may maintain cardiac contractions at roughly 40 to 60 beats per minute. If both fail, a final pacemaker may coordinate contractions at a constant rate of 30 to 40 beats per minute. The interference of the pacemakers will lead to irregular and uncoordinated contraction of the heart muscle. When fibrillation occurs, normal sinus rhythm may be reestablished with a controlled electrical current. SA nodes. The SA node sends out an electrical signal that stimulates contraction as it is propagated through the walls of the atria and then the walls of the ventricles. Our understanding number 10. The SA node sends out an electrical impulse that stimulates contraction of the myocardium. This impulse directly causes the atria to contract and stimulates another node at the junction between the atrium and ventricle. The second node, the AV node, sends signals down the septum via a nerve bundle. The bundle of his interment nerve fibers in the ventricular wall, causing ventricular contraction. This sequence of events ensures there is a delay between atrial and ventricular contractions, resulting in 2 heart sounds. This delay allows time for the ventricles to fill with blood following atrial contractions so as to maximize blood flow. Heart rate. The heart rate can be increased or decreased by impulses brought to the heart through 2 nerves from the medulla of the brain, which is our understanding number 11. Nerve signals from the brain can trigger rapid changes, while endocrine signals can trigger more sustained changes. Changes to blood pressure levels or CO2 concentrations will trigger changes in heart rate. Epinephrine increases the heart rate to prepare for vigorous physical activity, our understanding 12. Excuse me if I said that wrong. Hormones are chemical messengers related in the bloodstream that act specifically on distant target sites. Heart rate can undergo a sustained increase in response to hormonal signaling in order to prepare for vigorous physical activity. The hormone adrenaline is released from adrenal glands. Adrenaline increases heart rate by activating the same chemical pathways as the neurotransmitter noradrenaline. Our application number 2 is pressure changes in the left atrium, left ventricle, and aorta during the cardiac cycle. The cardiac cycle describes the series of events that take place in the heart over the duration of a single heartbeat. It is comprised of a period of contraction, which is systole, and relaxation, which is diastole. I will not read through all of this because I do not want to bore you guys, but it is here for you guys to go look at. Here is the cardiac cycle, and we can see how throughout the cardiac cycle, the ventricular and aortic and atrial pressures change. Application 3. Causes and consequences of occlusion of the coronary arteries. Coronary arteries are the blood vessels that surround the heart and nourish the cardiac tissue to keep the heart working. If coronary arteries become occluded, the region of the heart tissue nourished by the blood artery will die and cease to function. Here we have the causes and the consequences. You guys can look back at my PowerPoint to understand the causes and the consequences of this. Here's my review Kahoot for you guys to practice on. Thank you. Goodbye.